This is the NRC Black Table Talk Podcast, and welcome everybody to another edition of the podcast. Today is Tuesday, March 19th. Happy Taco Tuesday, everybody. And we have a very special guest here with us, and we will get to her in a hot second. But I am Travis Register, your host, and my co-host is
Foster Sellers.
And our special guest, please say your name.
Hi, my name is Whitaker. Thank you so much, Travis and Foster, for having me today. And happy Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, Taco what a special Tuesday. Taco it is today. So let's dive right off into this thing. Who is Kenya Whitaker?
So I am a movement lawyer at DC Justice Lab. I am from PG County, also known as Pretty Girl County.
Hey. Wear it.
Or gorgeous Prince George's, whatever you want to call it. I went to elementary through high school in PG County. I went to college at Trinity Washington University in DC, and I also went to law school in DC at UDC Law. So go Firebirds.
Okay, fine. Lady Firebird in the house.
All right. Represent.
So, you are a reparations type lawyer, movement lawyer, right?
Yes, I am a movement lawyer.
Explain to us, because, reparations is an old word or term that's been used from way back. So, and it's still around, obviously, because, you're a movement lawyer, attacking certain things, these type things. So, what is reparations and how do you play on this?
So, like you said, Travis, reparations is an older concept because Black people have been advocating for reparations for centuries. And one of the first Black people to do so, her name was Callie House, and she was doing so back in the 1800s. But reparations in its essential form is righting a wrongdoing. And it can come in many forms, which would be financial payments, which would be programs, services, or simply an apology, and or all of the above. So that's what I view as reparations. And before we get too deep into this, I also would like to define what a movement lawyer is. So a movement lawyer is someone that works directly alongside directly impacted individuals. And instead of leading issues that they may have, we give them the tools to advocate for themselves, and essentially we take direction from them. So an example of a movement lawyer, or what I think of a movement lawyer, is a Martin Luther King or Dr. King with a law degree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. King.
I like that.
Yes.
that. So what you're doing is you're not giving a horse water. You're leading the horse to the water and showing them how to drink.
Yes, I am. Even though I don't want to compare the people to the horse, but yes,
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
all right, Kenya.
How about you teaching people how to fish and not just giving them a fish?
Okay. Yes, I like that.
Okay, we can do that. I'm sorry for people. If you thought you were horses, you're not horses at all.
Not at all. But yeah, Kenya. So, we're talking about being a movement lawyer and the work you've done in that space and in that arena. And you talked about how you went to UDC for law school, and you're local to the DMV area. So, I was just wondering, are there any recent issues that have come up as far as your background and your professional skill set that you have used this movement lawyer title to kind of move the ball on a current event or an issue that you're passionate about?
Yeah, so at DC Justice Lab, I am leading the reparations campaign, and I'm also leading another campaign on decriminalizing sex work in the district. So back in 2019, there was a reintroduction of a bill called the Community Safety and Health Amendment Act, and it was reintroduced by Councilmember Grosso. He's no longer at the DC Council, but 2019 was a monumental year for sex worker rights. It was the first ever hearing on decriminalizing sex work in DC, and although I feel like there hasn't been a lot of discussion on decriminalizing sex work in the district, it's still a very pertinent issue. And even with the Secure DC bill and the drug-free zones, it still is related to decrim poverty and making sure that sex workers are respected and their health and safety are prioritized.
So you said you had that division with DC Justice Lab.
Yes.
First of all, shout out, to our friends in DC Justice Lab. Y'all like my super friends, I call y'all the Justice League. There's been plenty of alumni who came through here, Foster,
That's
and
right.
who have been interviewing with us and things of that manner. So we definitely gonna shout out our office neighbors
Yes.
and our friends.
Shout out to DC Justice Lab.
Yes. So here recently, you just had a decrim function. Was it last Thursday?
Yes, it was last Thursday at my alma mater, UDC Law, and it was with an organization named Outlaw, and they prioritize marginalized communities and LGBTQ plus students in law school and their experiences. And it's just a safe space for them to talk about issues that they're facing, whether it's schoolwork or personal issues. And so they were very open and welcoming and giving me a platform to discuss the decrim sex work movement in DC. And we just hung out. We watched an episode of P Valley together because that deals with a type of sex work, which is exotic dancing. And we ate cookies, drank some tea, and we discussed why decriminalizing sex work is so important and what the future holds for the movement.
I like what you guys did at UDC because you brought the community together.
Yes.
And a lot of times we think that the government has the answers, and really the answer comes from the community itself.
It does.
Can you explain and expand on that kind of concept and that idea that when you talk about decrim and bringing people together, that it really starts there in that kind of space?
Right. So that's all what it means to be a movement lawyer. It's grassroots organization. It's working with the community. It's letting people know that they have the power to advocate for themselves. Like, there is a such thing as people power. And when people tap into their people power, then you get these monumental changes such as reparations for Native Washingtonians or the decriminalization of sex work in the district. So I'm really big on community, and it starts with political education. So going back to where I graduated from and teaching the students about the status of sex worker rights and how they can implement changes and how they can advocate for changes, despite the fact that they don't even have their law degree yet. You don't need a law degree to invoke change. You just need to know that you have the ability to do so.
That's right. That's
Absolutely.
right.
Absolutely.
What was the purpose in showing the episode of P Valley at the function you had Thursday?
I'm really big on the impact of media and pop culture, and when it comes to advocating for systematic change. And so I just wanted to do something a little fun, and I think a lot of people, when they watch P Valley, I don't think the first thing they think of automatically is sex work. I think they think of, fun, dancing, drama, but that's the root of the show. Like, that is the main theme of the show. It's advocating for sex worker rights. And although stripping or exotic dancing is legal, it's still a form of sex work. And you will find in some cases that a lot of exotic dancers either were prostitutes or they did street-based sex work or they end up doing it. So there's like intertwining of different types of sex work. And I just feel like once you get one type of sex work on board on decriminalizing the other, like, there's no stopping. So that's the reason why.
Right. And then you have like places over the country, like Nevada, where it is decriminalized.
Yeah, well, in Nevada, there's 10 counties in Nevada where it is legalized. And I highlighted in my presentation the difference between legalization and decriminalization, which basically legalization, it makes the act not illegal anymore, but there are still rules and regulations that you have to adhere to. And so my argument is that legalization creates a two-tiered system. And when you think of street-based prostitution or street-based sex work, people that do that type of work out of survival, they don't have the money or the resources to adhere to these regulations. So even if it was legalized, the most marginalized people, transgender women, black women, gay people, they will still be out of regulation and face criminal penalties. So then you ask, what's the point of legalization?
I love the fact that we can come along our brothers and sisters who are experiencing this and in some way, shape, or form change the language, change the narrative around sex work, around
Right.
prostitution, and in getting these concepts of legalization and decriminalization familiarized with our repertoire, so we know how to assist our brothers and sisters who are in this space. So what
Right.
I'm trying to get at is that if we don't do anything, then they'll be the ones who are harassed by the police or mass incarcerated for this offense. So this is really something for us to listen to and kind of educate ourselves,
Right.
and to help become advocates on their behalf as well.
Right. And you put it so perfectly. If we don't advocate for our brothers and sisters, because again, that goes back to the idea of community. These are our neighbors. These are the people that we've grown up with. These are people that we've gone to school with. These could be cousins. These could be friends of friends. Nevertheless, these are people that we interact with, and they should be treated as such. They should be treated as human beings with respect and dignity. So I do think it is important for us to advocate with them.
What type of backlash, if any, have you suffered advocating for the decrim sex work?
I wouldn't say backlash necessarily, but you do have people who confuse decriminalizing sex work with promoting sex trafficking. And if you go back and you listen to the hearing back in 2019, you will hear that those people that were against the bill were against it because they were victims of sex trafficking themselves, which is important for us to hear them talk. But my argument is that if we continue to criminalize sex work, it's only going to increase sex trafficking because people are going to be afraid to speak out due to the fear of arrest and criminalization. So I think that those who have suffered from sex trafficking or who are against it, I'm against sex trafficking. And one thing I want to highlight is that the bill was still prohibiting sex trafficking and trafficking against minors. It was just making it consensual, or excuse me, it was making it legal or decriminalizing consensual sex between those 18 years and older. So again, I'm an advocate against sex trafficking as well, but and I think you said this earlier, Foster, you cannot imprison people. You cannot jail people. You cannot incarcerate people out of a problem. Like, that's not going to solve the root cause, which is poverty, which is systemic racism, which is classism, which is transphobia, etc. Like, you just can't do it. It's not going to work. So I think those voices against sex trafficking should be amplified. But again, I don't think criminalizing consensual sex is going to be the way to solve that problem.
That's exactly right. And I think for our listeners who are listening in, this is a very important point, that we can't punish our way out of this kind of reality. It's just not going to work. And that there's a clear distinction between being made here by Ms. Kenya, that human trafficking and decriminalizing sex work are two different things. And you can still advocate for both, you know what I mean? So that's a very important point that you are making.
Right. Thank you. And at DC Justice Lab, we make it a point to find alternative ways to incarceration because, again, and I can't stress this enough, it won't save us at the end of the day. It just won't.
Definitely won't.
We thank you for your work that you're doing at DC Justice Lab. I know that you have another project focusing on reparations.
Yes, I do.
And can you elaborate and explain, and just for our listeners, a little bit about what you're working on as far as that campaign?
Sure. So I am leading the reparations campaign as well at DC Justice Lab, and essentially it's advocating for reparations for Native Washingtonians. And last February specifically, the Reparations Foundation Fund and Task Force Establishment Act was reintroduced by CM Kenya McDuffie, and CM means council member. But it was reintroduced by council member Kenya McDuffie, and it had a hearing in June with over 100 people testifying on the importance of reparations. So Yeah, essentially, I'm advocating for that bill to pass soon, and for Native Washingtonians to get the reparations that they deserve.
So I know that most of our listeners may not be familiar with what reparations can bring about, and explaining it that there's more to it than just financial benefits.
Right.
And the task force is really the objective with this particular policy.
Mm-hmm.
And explaining that for our listeners, and then a little bit about how this policy came about, if you guys modeled it off of other things that are going on in the country around reparations as well.
Yeah, so this bill would just create a 9-member task force. It isn't administering reparations, which is a misconception that people have. And going back to what you just asked, Foster, reparations is more than direct individual payments. Again, it comes in many forms, such as programs, services. So it's not just about the money. And another point that I want to make about reparations that's really important is it's not punitive. So it's not pointing the finger at white people and saying it's all your fault. And so because your ancestors did this, you owe us. Or we're not punishing white people. We're not punishing a group of people. We are addressing harms done to the Black community. And we're trying to be put in a place so that moving forward we can have better race relations.
Right.
Black people can have better positions in society, economically, socially, culturally. It's not trying to create division. It's trying to create healing. It's trying to promote healing. And as far as modeling it after other jurisdictions in the nation, we have California, who was one of the first jurisdictions in the United States to pass a bill that would create a task force to study and provide recommendations on how to repair harms done to the Black community. And we've had Detroit, Michigan. We have Asheville, North Carolina. We even have Greenbelt, Maryland. So one point that I also want to emphasize is usually D.C. is looked upon as a jurisdiction as leading on these social issues or social changes. We're behind, and we need to catch up.
Wow.
Yeah, I hear that.
Kenya, you're an advocate with the professional title of of what you are, a movements lawyer.
Yes.
And there's a lot of passion behind this.
Yes.
There's a lot of dedication. There's a lot of sacrifice when you become an advocate because you're standing in the gap.
I am.
And you're young. So where did this passion come from? How did you know you wanted to be this?
So I would say starting at a young age, as young as 5, I just remember always wanting to be a lawyer. And it started off as when you ask a child, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they give you those heavy hitters. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be the president. I want to be an astronaut. Lawyer is a part of that group of powerful jobs to have, impactful jobs to have. So that was my first thought. But then as I got older and wiser and became a woman, I started to notice that they treat me like a Black woman. So the racism, the discrimination. And one of my earliest encounters with racism actually happened in elementary school when I was in the 1st grade. And I had a teacher, a white teacher, who instead of calling my name to get my attention, she pulled my hair. And back then I used to wear 2 pigtails. And she reached over and yanks my hair. And I just remember being so enraged by
As you should.
Yeah, by the fact that this teacher who is meant to teach and nurture and protect students would put her hands on me in a way that was just so dehumanizing and disrespectful.
You don't even do a dog like that.
Right.
You don't put a dog to get their attention. Put a dog's ear to get their attention.
Right.
You call their name or make a noise.
Right. But my parents
Whistle.
handled it, so shout out to them. But yeah, yeah, I will say that it was one of those eye-opening moments where I was just like, oh, is this what it means to be Black? Is this what it means to be a Black student in academia? I don't like the way that feels.
One thing you didn't do is that you didn't diminish. You rose to the occasion.
Thank you.
And you used it as fuel for the fire. And now
Yes.
your fire is burning now.
Thank you.
And we thank God for that.
Thank you.
We need more of our people to become lawyers, and if you don't even go to school to be a lawyer, that, like you said, you don't need an education, to advocate.
Right.
It's good to be educated. It makes you more powerful,
It
to do
does.
so. But we're thankful for you and the men and women that are like you, who are these movement lawyers, and standing in the gap and helping out our people. Yeah, you're helping out people, period. But our people specifically need more help, because we're the ones, the suffering, the brink of the blow.
Right.
So, man, just keep up the good work, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's easy for us to struggle and then say, you know what, this is too much.
Right.
I quit. I don't want to keep fighting against, this beast that doesn't want me to be a movement lawyer.
Right.
But you haven't done that.
Nope, I didn't. And there are days where it gets hard and you start thinking like, dang, should I continue to fight the fight? But ultimately, it's all worth it. It is worth it. And it's important work that needs to be done. So I'm grateful to be here. So thank you.
Definitely will. No, thank you.
I think the point that you just made a minute ago about reparations and how it's supposed to unite, and it's not about pointing the finger at other cultures and other backgrounds and other people. It's really about trying to make amends and,
Right.
like you said, bring the healing process out, that this
Right.
country can, be the best, that we show that there are mistakes that were made in our past, but we aren't just our past mistakes.
Right.
We're something more. So
Exactly.
with that being said, it's like, how do we talk about this reparations issue in lieu of things like, in Florida, they don't want to teach AP courses.
Right.
They're doing away with affirmative action issue. These are current events that we are all aware of that's going on in the country. How do we still expand the idea of what you're saying about reparations and uniting people around the idea that this is not about pointing the finger. This is about people coming together as a community.
I think it's all in what you just said, Foster. It's the framing of reparations. It's the framing of advocacy and making it a point that, again, it's not punitive, it's reparative. It's advocating for healing. It's advocating for community. I get chills when I see non-Black people advocating for reparations, because to me it's like, yes, you get it. Like, yes, you get it that it's not about pointing the finger. It's about, you're my neighbor, you're my community member, you're alongside with me in this fight for what's right. And again, it's for what's right. There's so many harms that have been done to the Black community, to Black people from DC, in DC, not just slavery, not just Jim Crow, but segregation, discrimination, mass incarceration, the war on drugs. I mean, we have so many people who are still in DC jail, in prison, all over the country for crimes that, although they may have committed it, they didn't deserve life sentences for,
Right.
or they got sent away for minute crimes that today aren't even crimes anymore, So I think that it's about how you frame reparations and not making it about punishment or you're wrong, and because you're wrong, you deserve to pay me X amount of money. It's not about that. It's bigger than that.
Definitely
Absolutely.
is. You said
Well
something.
said.
You talked about how it gave you chills, or it gives you chills when you see people who are not Black fighting for reparations for us. And when you said it, I remember back during COVID, the whole George Floyd thing happened,
Right.
and you had people that was protesting even in this city, but not just this city, but all over the country, and even in places like Hong Kong or Australia,
Right.
they were protesting, and these are people who are not Black.
Right.
They're doing this, but they're fighting for the injustices, and they're standing up
Right.
and advocating for the wrongs that's being done to our people as well.
Right. And I think George Floyd, rest in peace to him, I think that is a great example of people coming together and not looking at, oh, I'm Black, or you're white, or you're gay, or
Right.
you're a Christian. It's like, no, they're harming people. and by them I mean the police, are harming people. They're getting away with them, and it's not right. We need to do what's right.
Right. And it shows that it's a new day because, you know, back in the day, the 60s and the 50s and even before that, I guess, but it was only the blacks that was rioting. Only the blacks was trying to stand up for the rights of blacks.
Yeah, I mean, you will have some instances where there will be like some white people that will also, you know, do the freedom rides or do the voter registration. But I will say that now it is a lot more non-black people fighting for issues that just impact or affect black people. So I do think that that is a good sign. And I think that that's something that certain people are afraid of. So when you bring up Florida and you bring up DEI, which stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion, when you bring up them trying to take away that, it's like that fear of people coming together. They don't want that. They're scared of that.
But we all know that we need the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion can't be stressed enough.
Right.
And we see that in the work that we do here at the National Reentry Network for Returning Citizens. I know that you all are committed to that type of equality, diversity, and inclusion over at DC Justice Lab.
Yes, we are.
And as advocates, as we talk about this issue of reparations and decrim sex trafficking and things like that, it's a powerful message when we can unite as a community to say no more. First, no more to mass incarceration of sex workers.
Right.
No more to the fact that police can treat sex workers in a biased or unhumanized way.
Right.
The brutality that they experience. And the work that you're doing, Kenya, speaks volumes to that.
Yes, it does. Right. And I know you meant decrim sex work, not sex trafficking, because we want to,
Yes,
you don't want to
I'm sorry. Yeah, I meant that.
I caught that too.
That's what I meant. Sorry. I was getting excited.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. No, I don't want the listeners to be like, wait, what? But no, I appreciate that, Foster. And yeah, it is very important work that we're doing at DC Justice Lab that I'm doing, but I'm having fun while doing it. And I think that it's very interesting what you find out about yourself when you're in the field and you're advocating for these issues.
Speak of the doing, what do you have coming up?
So as of now, still advocating for reparations. I'm currently doing a social media campaign, and since it is March, which is Women's History Month, I am doing a mini-series focused on the women of the reparations movement and honoring women who made an impact on reparations. So first it was Callie House. I just did a post on Queen Mother Moore, and then in the upcoming weeks, stay tuned. I don't want to ruin any surprises.
I hear that.
Okay.
So at DC Justice Lab, you can find the other women that I will be highlighting for Women's History Month and their impact on the reparations movement. And then just trying to build momentum for reparations, letting people know that there's big dates coming up. So we have DC Emancipation Day, which is April 16th. And a lot of people don't know that that's the day that Abraham Lincoln signed the DC Compensated Emancipation Act, which gave reparations. But guess who it gave reparations to?
It wasn't us, was it?
It wasn't us. It was slave owners.
Slave owners. Wow.
Yeah,
the
so
plot twist.
The plot thickens, doesn't it? It was slave owners. So DC isn't unfamiliar with giving reparations, just not to black people. And $1 million was actually set aside for this program, which would be over like $30 million in today's money.
Wow. You just took me to school.
Yes.
A little more. I mean, this has been a class that's still in session.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Man, that's one of the beautiful things about having guests like lawyers and mitigation specialists and these activists. And
Right.
we learn a lot.
Yeah. I learned a lot from you two as well.
I'm gonna get a degree from you. I need a degree. Right? You need a degree, Foster?
I do, but this women's history program that she's doing and highlighting these trailblazers is phenomenal.
Right.
I'm intrigued. I want to know more.
Yeah.
I can't You can't let the cat out the bag.
No, I mean, I have 2 posts that are already up
Right.
at DC Justice Lab, so
Awesome.
check them out. And then for Black History Month, I had some really interesting posts. I made a post about Frederick Douglass. I made a post about Abraham Lincoln and, the DC Compensated Emancipation Act of 1862. And I had this really fun post about reparations in the media. So I discussed the Chappelle Show back in 2004. He talked about reparations, and I talked about Barbershop. You remember Barbershop, the movie?
Yes.
The movie.
Yeah, the barber.
Okay.
There's a scene in Barbershop. It's Michael Ealy's character, and it's another actor. He was in Save the Last Dance. I can't think of his name.
Oh yeah, I know
you
you're talking
remember
about,
him?
Yeah.
So they're going back and forth about reparations. And then the Proud Family, they have a reboot called The Proud Family Louder and Prouder, which comes on Disney Plus. They did an episode based on reparations. And, of course, they got backlash for being anti-white. But I thought the episode was very powerful. And it explained reparations very clearly to, young people. And I think that that's who I'm trying to get excited about reparations is the young people. Because
the
think
future.
The future. And I think that they think reparations is this far-fetched concept that's old-timey. And
it has that ring to it. It does, but it's
my God!
No, I mean, really, if you think about reparations, that's something people are not really talking about today.
We talking about a task force today.
But I mean, but
boots to the ground.
Yeah. But when you think about it, you don't hear the term,
right?
And Kenya brought it back to light. At least for me, because it's been used for so long,
Right.
Because the injustices have been going on with Black people.
Right.
So we think that because you see these millionaires on social media and you think everybody's doing this other type of stuff, they have their own businesses and these a small percentage.
Right.
But they think it's the masses. So reparations seems to go out the window a little bit until you're actually boots on the ground and you're doing the research and you become a movement lawyer and you see, hey, no, reparations is still needed today.
Right. And then, of course, there's been other examples in the past of restitution given to those who have been wrong. So you had the Japanese Americans in 1988. You got the example of Jewish people in the Holocaust. And there's other examples as well, the Native people or indigenous people. So we have examples or models that we could follow, but it seems as if people are kind of scared to follow them. I will say there's been one jurisdiction, and the first ever to administer reparations was Evanston, Illinois, and you had them focusing on housing renovations, down payment for property, etc. So they did that back in 2021, 2022, and they're even expanding their program to allow for more recipients and more money.
That's what I'm talking about.
That means do not count the BIPOC community out of reparations. That's Black, indigenous people of color.
Right.
And we all laugh about it now, but we are probably thinking in our minds that we probably have in some way been thought of as if we give them this reparation, will we no longer be dependent on the system?
Right.
And so I know there are a lot of people who are listening who probably think that way, that, the BIPOC community is so dependent on the government services that we get now. To free them from that would be a great, rising of the tide.
Yeah. I mean, that's another way to look at it. But again, with this bill, DC's bill, the Reparations Foundation Fund and Task Force Establishment Act, is the creation of a 9-member task force. So they will study and provide recommendations, and then based on those recommendations, then there will be implementation and administration of reparations.
I love it. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
There's light at the end of the tunnel. But we need people like you, Foster, and you, Mr. Travis, to advocate for reparations. We need y'all.
Absolutely.
Definitely
You have
on
our
board.
support.
Okay.
You have our
Okay.
support.
And and we just started with the podcast, with you coming on here and
Yes.
and sharing it, and fueling your desire, your passion, through the microphone to people who are listening, and as well to us first. We caught the first heat.
Yes, y'all did.
So and it feels good, to know that you're giving back.
Yes.
And fighting for people. Now, not just for blacks. We're fighting for the rights of people.
Right.
Because people are wronged.
Right.
People be. And we just talked about it. So, yeah. Kenya, I would love to keep you longer. But we can always invite you back again.
Yes, you can. Thank you so much for having me. This has been great. I love talking about reparations. I can talk about reparations all day. The same with decrim sex work. So do y'all have any more questions or anything else you want to know? Let me know.
Kenya, you have just been a beacon of hope and
thank you.
A powerful voice to this call to action and this current fight that we're in. And I just want to say, keep up the fight.
Thank you.
Before we let you go, just like we do with all our special guests, we would love for you to give us some parting words of wisdom and inspiration to the individuals who are listening, to where they can not only just hold into their heart, but apply it.
One thing I will say is, even when it gets tough, please keep going. We need you. And by you, I mean the community, to fight for these issues, to right wrongs, to advocate for marginalized communities. Even when it gets tough, please keep going. Even if you got to take a nap, a break, some days off, please get back up and keep it pushing, because we are all we got. We are all we got. So those are some words of wisdom. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Kenya Whitaker, everybody,
Yay.
DC Justice Lab movement lawyer, reparations activist.
Yes.
This is the NRC Black Table Talk podcast, and we are signing out, but we're never signing off, because there's always work to be done, boots to the ground. And y'all know what to do. Do good.
Thank you.